Good morning, everyone. Dr. Landi, Mr. Amaila, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, and how are you?
Good in you.
I can't complain. It's
Are you
just
in
that
Cape Town?
yes, I'm in Cape Town, so cold.
Yes, very cold. But we're surviving.
Yeah, we're surviving. Are the colleagues joining us from the office?
I've no idea because there's also a SCOF meeting this morning.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so some might be in that meeting
No, that's fine.
and some are on leave.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Nelia.
Recording in progress.
Good morning, honorable members. Good morning to all our respective members. May I just check quickly on the platform? Is Honorable Bridget Masango on? Honorable Masango, are you on the call?
I am, Honorable Chairperson.
That is fantastic. I will, in a moment, just officially open this meeting. I just want to make sure we are all audible. Is the Minister of Social Development, is the Minister on? Mashile, could you check for me, please, if the Minister is on the call?
Yes,
Yes, she is.
Yes, Chair.
Oh, is she on? That's fantastic. That means we can resume with the business of the day. If you wouldn't mind, Mashile, will you project the agenda on the screen? This is a joint meeting between two committees. Wouldn't mind?
Yes, DJ, I'm on that.
Good morning and good morning, honorable members. On the agenda for today,
Okay.
Can you
give it time?
honorable members, I think it's the committee. Lesedi, may I ask you to mute your device, please? Thank you, Lesedi. I appreciate that. Honorable members and members of both committees present here today. That being the 8th of July, is a joint standing committee meeting between the Portfolio Committee on Social Development and the Standing Committee on Appropriations. The agenda as we have it here today is really a direct engagement with the Department of Social Development. Now, on the agenda today, obviously and naturally, we will acknowledge apologies in a moment. We will go through a presentation by the department, and then we will allow sufficient time for deliberations. There are a number of minutes that are outstanding that the committee is considering, as you can see them being presented there on the screen. Mashile, I'm going to hold those towards the end so that if time does not permit, we can really move them to the next meeting. Some of these minutes, I have read through them. Many of them are really on issue or on some of the other meetings. Some of them are on public hearings, etc., etc. So given that, may I ask if there is a member of the committee who will move for the adoption of the agenda?
Good morning, Chair. I do.
That is Honorable, sorry, somebody spoke. You didn't introduce yourself.
My apologies, Chair. Honourable Wakeling here.
Honorable Wakeling moves. I see Honorable Galega Mazibuko's hand is up. Does that mean you are seconding Honorable Galega Mazibuko?
Yes, I am seconding, Chair. Thank you very much.
Much appreciated. That being said, that will be effectively the agenda as we would follow for today. I'm going to make a short welcome remarks, and then I will hand over to the chairperson, Bridget Masango, Honorable Masango, to make some opening remarks if she wants to. And then after that, we'll acknowledge the apologies and then move from there. Honorable members, this meeting is convened to consider allocations that go into the appropriations bill that have been given to, and the allocations being given to the Department of Social Development. It's now common cause, as all South Africans would know, that a significant component of our budget goes towards social welfare. I have read through the extensive presentation that the ministry has put together that speaks about its programs and its strategic objectives. And I think when we have this conversation today, it's not going to be philosophical about whether you believe in welfare or not, albeit that might be one discussion. We are going to have to focus on the programs that the department has put forward, some of the conditionality that National Treasury has put on the table, and ultimately the work that this particular committee is designed to do is to really make submissions that deal with the appropriation bill itself. Let me, secondly, acknowledge the presence of the minister. I truly, truly appreciate it. At our previous meeting, there were some technical issues regarding our connectivity and our communication with the ministry itself. And the minister graciously sent a letter of apology and made contact with me personally to apologize for not being, and is here today in person. And I think that is indeed honorable, and I truly appreciate that from the minister. It is always important for us as a committee to obviously engage with the executive in this regard. So that the meeting then being a joint one, we want to try and ensure that the presentations flow, but give enough members an opportunity to be able to go and give submissions and make deliberations as they go. So with those few remarks, there can be no more important moment considering what we are here to discuss. Let me allow Honorable Masango, if you'd like to make some opening remarks, and then we'll move on to apologies. Honorable Masango.
Thank you, Chairperson. I wish to thank you for inviting us to this meeting at the short notice that we gave you to consider our invited, which was occasioned by the committee's desire and need to make sure that we at least make our points made, to make our points with regards to the conditions that are attached to the allocation of the budget of the South African Social Security Agency under the Department of Social Development, over which we exercise oversight. This was also a result of our attempts as the Portfolio Committee on Social Development to try and create a platform where this issue could be discussed with the view to ensure that we alleviate or at least we soften the blow on the beneficiaries who are affected already to some degree by the conditions or some of the conditions that are attached to the budget of the Social Security Agency 2025-2026. So this being here today also is driven by the fact that we are debating our budget, the Vote 19 budget on Thursday, and we wanted to know what it is that can be agreed to or at least be deliberated on in as far as these conditions are concerned. We have communications that are coming out of the communities, the beneficiaries, the civil society, individuals that are seeing what is happening on the ground as a result, in part, of these conditions. So the committee sought the audience of your standing committee as our department, the Department of Social Development, was coming before you today. So I just wish, on behalf of the Portfolio Committee on Social Development, to thank you and the standing committee for allowing us to be here today. And we have seen the agenda and are in total agreement with it, obviously, because we came at this tail end of this arrangement. So thank you so much, Honorable Maimane. We appreciate your indulgence. Thank you.
Welcome, Honorable Masango. Thank you very much. I've received apologies. The one apology I have received is from Deputy Minister Saropin, who's the Deputy Minister of Finance. Are there any other apologies from any other members that we need to recognize?
Yes, good morning, Chairperson, honorable members, guests on the platform. We've received an apology from Honorable Kaleka Mazibuko. She's in with us, but she'll be traveling from 11 o'clock. She'll be logging off at the time. Thank you, Chair.
Noted. Are there any other apologies, honorable members? I think that. Yeah,
Good morning, Chair, the Minister and the members. My name is Lindy Wenzabo. I'm the Committee Secretary for the Portfolio Committee on Social Development. Chair, I do have two apologies from the members of the committee. One apology is Member Ramaila, who indicated that he will be attending EPC, but he's just logged in. He will participate when necessary. Another apology is from Member Abrahams, who won't be able to attend today's proceedings due to prior commitments. So I have only those apologies. I thank you.
Noted, and thank you very much. With those apologies dispensed with, let me take an opportunity to welcome the Ministry of Social Development. Welcome and honor the Minister being here in person. The Minister will open the discussions, introduce the team. Minister, the presentation has been sent to all the respective members of the committee, and so they've had an opportunity to read through some of the strategic objectives, programs, etc. Really, I think the meat lies in the two aspects that speak to the finances, allocations to the department, which is what the Appropriations Committee deals with, and obviously the last number of slides that speaks to the conditions that have been attached by National Treasury. I say that to mean, Minister, with the team that is here, that we can ensure that as we move through the program, we are not overly invested in all of the PowerPoint, but we are invested in the deliberations, because I think that's where we get the substance of the issue, and we can collectively be able to work together to find the best pathway forward. With those quick remarks, Honorable Minister, welcome. Let me hand over to you and to your team. Siyabule.
Good morning to you. Good morning to my chairperson of DSD, Mem Fango, Deputy Minister of DSD, Mr. Harif Hendricks, our Director General, Mr. Peter Nichipale, our CEOs, both of SASA, Mr. Temba Matlo, as well as Acting CEO of NDA, Mr. Tabani Mutelezi, also senior officials of the department and senior executive of our entities. Good morning. Thank you, Chairperson, for the invitation for us to come and brief you into this. Indeed, Chairperson, it is really humble us to be able to come before you, to come and present what we have after the processes so that we can all interact with and will accept the guidance thereof. Chair, the committee of the 2025 Appropriation Bill for the Social Development Sector, we submitted the strategic plans, annual performance plans, as well as the budget, following the retabling of the budget by the Minister of Finance to Parliament. Chair and members, our mandate is derived from the broader social protection expressed in Section 9, 10, and 27 of the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. And this, the specific legislation and chapter level of the National Development Plan, social protection reduces vulnerability, alleviates and ultimately prevents poverty, and it empowers individual families and communities through a range of social development services. Our mandate, Chair, is to provide care and support services to vulnerable groups through the implementation of social assistance, wherein we invest in every citizen to become self-sustainable and contribute to the growth of the country. Honorable Chair, we developed and presented our departmental strategic plan, annual performance plan, and budget for the 7th Administration of Government of National Unity. I'm glad to inform you that the Auditor General of South Africa also had an opportunity to review these plans for technical robustness, which we did take into consideration, and these recommendations assisted us to strengthen the plans and the budget allocations. And as part of the 7th administration of the GNU, the President announced 3 strategic priorities of the medium-term development plan, which also the Cabinet approved. As part of the last contribution towards the NDP Vision 2030, which becomes more crucial for us to consolidate the new next 5 years through the implementation of strategic plans and APPs. Priority 2 on reducing poverty and tackling the high cost of living is the main one for us, and it's centered on our social protection mandate, whilst other departments are also expected to contribute in places more responsible to the department with 8 medium-term development plan DSD commitments. Chair and members, the plans and budgets that we are presenting here today provide a strategic direction to the department and articulate how the felt need of our people will be addressed. The DSD portfolio continues to recommit itself to improve quality of our life of our people, especially our beneficiaries. Chair, we had to dig deeper and rely in the injection of our own agility as we adopted innovative ways of providing the much-needed social service to a multitude of poor and vulnerable people, while we continue to be severely underfunded. Currently, social grants are a major source of income support for 45% of South African population. The results of 2022 census are further a proof that our investment in social assistance program is working because it has lifted millions of our people out of poverty. The demand for social service continues to rise amidst the growing burden of social ills such as unemployment, widening inequality gap, crime, teenage pregnancy, substance use disorder, and gender-based violence and femicide. As such, the employment of social service professionals is emerging as a pressing issue across South Africa. Honorable Chairperson and members, our appropriation bill for 2025-26 is just over 294 billion to ensure protection against vulnerable people by creating an enabling environment for the provision of a comprehensive, integrated, and sustainable social development sector. 7 billion provides social assistance, which are social grants, including COVID SRD, to eligible individuals whose income and assets fall below the set threshold. 96% of the total social development budget is geared towards the reduction of poverty for the poor and vulnerable. The total administration transfer allocation for SASSA this year is 8.2 billion. This allocation is aimed at enhancing the efficiency and effectiveness of our social grant system, ensuring that we continue to support the most vulnerable members of our society. Over 318 million has been allocated for the welfare services policy development and implementation support, while over 362 million has been allocated for the social policy and integrated service delivery. Chair and members, this year we received our allocation with set conditions for social assistance for social grants. The conditions for SASSA budget allocation, we are told, are designed to ensure transparency, accountability, and effective management. We must indicate, Chair, that these conditions include verifying the income of participants and recipients through bank checks, conducting biannual cross-checks with various databases, revising agreements with SARS and NSFAS, and intensifying biometric checks on suspicious applications. Additionally, SASSA is required to submit quarterly progress report to the Department of Social Development and National Treasury, detailing progress on the conditions. Chair, non-compliance with these conditions will result in withholding of funds, and any unspent conditional allocation must be surrendered to the National Revenue Fund or declared as savings in the adjustments budget. The process of withholding funds is clear, but it is stringent, such that if SASSA fails to meet the stipulated conditions, the National Treasurer has the authority to determine whether satisfactory progress has been made. Funds will not be transferred by Department of Social Development if conditions are not met, and spending can only resume after written confirmation from National Treasury. This mechanism ensures accountability and compliance with the conditions tied to SASSA's budget allocation. Therefore, Chair, it is crucial for SASSA to demonstrate compliance with conditions to avoid budget withholding and ensure the smooth administration of social grants. We, as the Department of Social Development, will share the crucial role of oversight in this process. The risk of total SASSA budget and spending for the year 2025-26 declared as irregular expenditure in totality cannot be overemphasized, as the AGSA will need clarity on how unmet conditions have been accounted for by the agency. In conclusion, Chair, the budget allocation for SASSA for 2025-26 is a critical component of our commitment to supporting the most vulnerable members of our society. Chairperson, with these few words, I wish to thank the opportunity, and I will then call upon the Director General of DST, Mr. Peter Nchipale, with his team to come through on the articulation of numbers. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson.
Enkosi Minister Siyabule.
I've lost the minister.
Mashile, if you can, also put up the presentation. I'm certain the DG will go through that. Go from there.
Okay.
Lesedi, I'm not sure whether you are reconnected because I don't know if have we got the DG?
I'm sharing from a side chair. Is it visible?
Yes, we can see it. I just want to double check whether the Director General who is presenting next is on the platform and is ready to go.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Chair. We were just loading the presentation, and I'm sorry for that. Honorable Chair, person of the Standing Committee on Appropriation, also the members, also our chairperson of this Portfolio Committee of Social Development, Honorable Minister with us here. I'm going to, the presentation will be made as follows. I will have the strategist providing the strategy in which this budget is based on, and then it will be followed by the CFO of TST that is going to give us the appropriation, and then we will then ask the CEO of SASSA to give us the conditions and details of the other areas that are in the presentation. So with that, Chairperson, let me ask for all Pastor Maluleke to take up the presentation. Over to you, Maluleke.
Thank you very much, Director General. Greetings to the Honorable Chairpersons, Honorable Maimani, Honorable Masango, Honorable Members of Parliament, our Honorable Minister, the Director General, CEOs of SASSA and the NDA and colleagues. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Honorable members, I'm going to give a context to the presentation before handing over to the next presenter, the Chief Financial Officer. So I'll move with speed since the presentation was shared. My presentation will speak at a high level, the context, the strategic posture of the department. This is just to remind the honorable members about our DSD mandate, which is derived from the broader social protection as expressed in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. And as the National Department of Social Development, we implement various specific legislations to respond to the Constitution, as well as Chapter 11 of the National Development Plan, which deals with the social protection. I also want to say that the Cabinet approved the medium-term development plan with 3 strategic priorities. While DSD contribute to all these priorities, priority 3 on reducing poverty and tackling the high cost of living places more responsibility to the department. This is not just to say DSD has the entire responsibility of reducing poverty. We also have other government departments that are contributing. The president even developed the anti-poverty strategy that all the government department contribute into it. Next slide. Okay. On the next slide, this just to say the increase in social ills, poverty levels, and slow economic growth as a consequence of unemployment in the country that exacerbates the need for DSD to provide services to a multitude of people in the country. It's also important to mention, Honorable Chair, that the DSD budget was reduced, especially for the Provincial Department of Social Development. This affected us, especially in the appointment of social service professionals. According to the National Development Plan, we needed to have 55,000 social service professionals in the country. However, because of budgetary constraints, we are not able to do that. The funding of the much needed services rendered by the non-profit sector as well. So I think we'll speak about that later. Let's move to the next slide. This slide shows that we are a national department with concurrent functions with our provinces as well as entities. The department accounting to Parliament through our minister. We have our entities, SARS and the NDA, Schedule 3A public entities, the South African Council of Social Service, Professionals, Public Interest Institution, as well as the CDA. So this is the portfolio approach that our Honorable Minister is embracing, and she's embracing integration and collaboration within the DSD sector, and especially since we are the national department with limited services that we provide to the public, delivering services through provinces as well as our entities, and also embracing the implementation of the district development model. Let's move to the next slide. So this is the DSD strategic posture, is the strategic direction of the department, not only the national department, but also for the provinces as well as our entities. What is here is the VINIVA, which is the acronym for the vision, mission, and values. Our vision is a caring and self-reliant society. Honorable members, I must mention that this is a shared vision. You look at the visions of our provincial government departments are the same, including the mission of provision of integrated, comprehensive, and sustainable social development services. It also includes the impact statement as well as the 3 outcomes that we are implementing, which are aligned to the medium-term development plan. So as 9 provinces together with the national department, it's just the same, because we said if we have to move to this one direction, we have to have a shared VINIVA, which is vision, mission, as well as values. The values are shown there. We even came up with the acronym REACH-U so that everyone can be able to remember these values, not only to remember, but also to internalize them. Let's move to the next slide. So these are the strategic focus areas for the current MTDP period, as led by our Honorable Minister of Social Development. We are saying we want to contribute to poverty alleviation and food security, including the social grants, the job creation through the extended public works programs. Number 2 is basic income support. We'll be submitting the basic income support policy to Cabinet this year as one of the key anti-poverty strategies that we'll be implementing as government. Number 3 is gender-based violence and femicide. This is a challenge for the country, where as part of the strategic focus areas of the department, and also prioritizing the employment of social service professionals. I mentioned earlier that the NDP projected 55,000. However, because of budgetary constraints, we are not able to meet that. However, we developed a strategy on the employment of social service professionals, working with other government departments, because it's not only the National Department of Social Development that make use of social service professionals. So they are on board so that we can be able to achieve these numbers. The next one is alcohol and substance abuse, which is a major concern in the country. This is what we need to deal with. Number 6, youth and women empowerment is also one of our strategic focus areas. And also care and protection of children, the elderly, and persons with disabilities. The number 8 is social compacting, looking at the shrinking resources that we have at our disposal. We need to strengthen partnership with social partners, including the NPO sector, so that we can be able to augment the shrinking resources and maximize the impact and to address the felt needs of our people on the ground. The last one, which also aligned to MTDP strategic priority number 3, is to create a capable, ethical, and fit for purpose GSD portfolio. Next slide. So, and then without reading here, it's just to show that we have 8 commitments in the MTDP medium-term development plan that we have committed for ourselves as approved by Cabinet. This will be implemented by ourselves together with provinces as well as SASSA and the NDA. We have an intervention there to increase access to nutritious foods to all the vulnerable individuals. There are numbers that are displayed there that we want to achieve both in the midterm and also in the end term as well. We also want to optimize social protection within available fiscal resources and protect the value of social grants for children, the elderly, persons with disabilities, as well as the unemployed. We have beneficiaries in receipt of older persons grants. We have numbers that are displayed there just to save time. We also have beneficiaries in receipt of child support grants as well as the disability grants. This is the work that SASSA will be doing. Let's move to the next slide. We also want to strengthen the implementation of the National Drug Master Plan to ensure a South Africa free of substance abuse. Number of service users who access substance use disorder treatment services. We have set targets both in the midterm as well as the end term, and also the victims of gender-based violence accessing psychosocial services as well. This is the work that provinces will be doing, will be providing oversight to make sure that this work happens. Next slide. Linking social assistance with other forms of support to lift people out of poverty, so that it's not only SASSA, we also need to link people with some form of programs. We have an intervention there, number of households accessing sustainable livelihoods initiatives with numbers there. We'll be working with provinces to make sure that this is done. This also includes intervention by cooperatives as well. We need to link people to economic opportunities with the cooperatives as well. We have numbers there as displayed. Let's move to the next slide. These are the SONA commitments as pronounced by our president. They are important, they are prioritized, they are part of the annual performance plan. One of the actions as pronounced by the president is to build an integrated system of support to the poor as well as the unemployed. So in terms of target, we want to implement the National Integrated Social Protection Information System. Honorable Chairperson, we have silo systems within the social protection system. We are working with other government departments, including the Home Affairs, Department of Basic Education. We want to harmonize our systems so that even those who apply for social grants by the click of a button, we're able to see that this person is receiving UIF at the UIF Department of Labor, Human Settlements for housing and so on, because we experience double dippings in government. So we want to make sure that we have integrated system within the social protection so that these systems are able to talk. The next one is employment, strengthening existing programs from job search support to public employment so as to receive support from one-stop service center. This is what the President wants to see. Our contribution as the National Department of Social Development for the next 5 years, or rather the current MTDP, is to create 208,964 EPWP work opportunities. And of course, here we are working with other government departments, in the main Department of Public Works, which is driving this program. Next slide. So here we want to submit a policy on basic income support, which is important for us, not just for us, but for the country. We'll be submitting the policy on basic income support to Cabinet for approval. The last one, which is part of what the President pronounced in SONA, is to submit the national strategy to accelerate action for children to Cabinet. We are ready for that one. Next slide. We can move on this one, but it's just to show that the strategic plan and the APP that we tabled is aligned to the MTDP, is aligned to SONA, and also the BRRR. Let's move to the next slide. So classification of targets. As a national department with concurrent functions, in the main, we develop policies, legislations, as well as norms and standards and the guidelines and so on. So this is how our plans are classified. You can see that in the main, we spend more time on policy development and research, compliance, capacity building, to ensure that the implementers, especially the provinces, are able to implement the policies and legislations that we develop as a national department. Next slide. I think I'm not far from concluding. Next slide. Yeah, so I think I will conclude in the next 3 minutes. This is just to show the programs that we are implementing without mentioning every target or a program there. Program 1 for us, what is more critical, is to implement the entity governance and oversight framework to make sure that our entities that are accountable to Minister of Social Development are able to implement their founding legislation, are able to account, as they also account to Parliament. Number 4, which is also important since we are dealing with the appropriation, obtaining unqualified opinion on our annual financial statements is important for the department together with our entities. Program 2, we transfer 100% of social assistance grant funds to SASSA in line with the approved vote drawing from National Treasury. Let's move to the next slide. So here in the main, Program 3, submitting the draft policy on basic income support to Cabinet is key for us. Program 4, next slide. So on this one, and I've already mentioned number 14, implementation of the national plan on psychosocial support policy as part of the gender-based violence, is part of the annual performance plan, is prioritized, submitting the national strategy to accelerate action for children. Number 15. The last one, which is 17, is to submit policy on social development services to persons with disabilities to Cabinet. I think we'll be doing that in this second quarter of the financial year. The last one, here, yeah, I think I'll stop here, but what is important, number 7, submit GSD portfolio DDM framework to Management Committee for approval. We embrace the implementation of district development model. It's important for us. And number 12, produced a draft white paper on policy on linking social protection beneficiaries. I've already mentioned this. So in our APP, we have 42 targets. I think I'm done. DG, next slide. Yeah, I will then hand over to the Chief Financial Officer. This was just the context as we moved to the budget allocations. Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson and Honorable members. Ngo.
The CFO will lead on the issue of the budget and the numbers.
Thank you. Thank you, DG. Good morning, Honorable Chairperson of the Standing Committee and the Chairperson of our Portfolio Committee, the Minister sitting next to me, the DM, members of the committee, all the CEOs, the special advisors and colleagues, good morning. Honorable Chairperson, the Department of Social Development has also been very much affected by the slow economic growth experienced by the country as a whole. As a result, when you look at our budget, you can see that the increase was mainly on the inflation and on the wage bill. Slide number 1 just shows us where we're coming from 2022, 2023, which it gives us a really a clean picture in terms of the increase. In 2022, 2023, we were at 257 billion, and then we slightly moved to 263 billion in 2023-24. 24-25, we were on 275 billion, but then this current financial year, we moved slightly to 294 billion. But again, there's a reduction due to SRD in 2026-2027, as well as in 27-28, there's a slight movement upward. Next slide. The next slide talks to our appropriation bill as the department. As the department, we were appropriated 294 billion, of which the 575 million is for our compensation of employees, the goods and services sitting at 366 million. And then the big money, which is 293 billion, it is for transfers and subsidies. This is for the grants and all the funds that we are transferring to our entities. And then only the 15 million is sitting for the payments of our capital assets. Then in terms of program 1, we have 438 million, of which 237 million it is for our compensation of employees, and 194 million for our goods and services. The program 1, it looks like it has a lot of budget, but it is mainly because this is the branch that provides the strategic leadership, management, and support services to the entire department and the sector. Then on social, program 2, social assistance, we are looking at 284 billion, which constitutes 96% of the 294 billion. The Chairperson, when you look at the 284, it is made up of all the grants per grant type, starting from the care dependency, sitting at 4.9 billion, and the child support at 90 billion, then the disability at 30 billion, then the foster care grant at 3.4 billion, then the grant in aid at 3 billion, sorry. Then the old age, which is the biggest, sitting at 117 billion. Then we're looking at the social relief of distress, the so-called COVID relief, sitting at 35 billion this financial year. And then the war veterans sitting at only 106,000. Then on program 3, which is the social security policy and administration, we have an 8.1 billion. With that one, 75 million is only for the compensation of employees and 32 million is only for the goods and services. The rest goes to 7.9 goes to SASSA administration for the administration of social assistance. And then the 76 million goes to social assistance and fraud investigations. And then on program 4, which is welfare services and policy development and implementation support, we're looking at 318 million. Part of it goes towards implementing agencies and the non-profit organizations. Of course, the 162 million is for compensation of employees and the 95 million for goods and services. The list of non-profit organizations and other implementing agencies are listed. I'm not going to go through. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Then on program 5, which is social policy and integrated service delivery, we are looking at 362 million, and part of it, 99 million is for their compensation of employees. Then 43 million is for their goods and services. Part of that is 216 for the National Development Agency operations. Then on the next slide, that is just, Chairperson, the summary per program in terms of program 1, the administration, and it just shows you through the MTF period, the increase in terms of the percentages. As it can be seen, we're looking at around about 4.72%, which is slightly lower than the wage bill increase that was approved. So it is not much of an increase. It is just the inflation and to cover the wage bill, as I said. And then on social assistance program 2, it's 284 billion. And in 2026-27, reduced by 8.81%. Then again, in 27-28, the same is increased by 4.52%. Then on program 3, as I said, program 3 includes this SASSA administration, the social assistance fraud investigations. Together, it totals 8.1 billion. Then again, also when you move to the MTF period 26-27, it's only 8.2 billion, which is just a small increase of 0.67%. Then on year 27-28, the increase is only at 4.52%. Then program 5, which is the social policy and integrated service delivery, includes the NDA, which is just 216 million, and the rest goes towards their operations. So all in all, we're looking at 2025-26 at 294 billion, and 26-27, 269 billion. Then 27-28, 281 billion. Next slide, please. Next slide talks to the allocation per economic classification. Gives us for 2025-26, the first part is on compensation of employees. and the goods and services, which is sitting at 575, and the other is sitting at 366, with a slight increase in 26-27, which is sitting at 6.23%, and goods and services at 3.40%. Then in year 27-28, sitting at 5.65%. Then on goods and services, the increase is 2.65%. Then the transfers and subsidies for the agencies, it's 8.2 billion. Then for the foreign governments and international organizations, sitting at 4.7 million. Then the non-profit institutions at 52 million. Then the households, the big money, it's at 284 billion. I've already indicated the payments. It's for the capital assets, it's only at 15 million. And then it increases by 4.59% in year 26-27. And again, increases by 4.53% in year 27-28. Next slide, Chairperson. This slide talks to our earmarked allocations, the allocations that we are not allowed to touch even if we underspend or we overspend. We need to spend as according to the National Treasury's directive. So on social assistance grants, as I said, it is increasing slowly. This financial year, we're sitting at 284.8 billion. And in 26-27, as I said, it will go down by the SRD, which is now sitting at 259 billion. Then in 27-28, we will be looking at 271.4 billion. As I said, these are specifically and exclusively appropriated for transfers to households for social assistance grants. Then SASSA administration, the current year, they are sitting at 7.9 billion and 8 billion for the 26-27, 8.4 billion for the 27-28, earmarked for transfer to social to SASSA for the grant administration. Then 76.9 million in 2025-26 and 77.5 million in 26-27 and 81.3 million in 27-28 is earmarked for transfer to SASSA again, but for fraud investigations. Then 216.3 million in 2025-26 and 226.2 million in 26-27 and 236.4 million in 27-28 is earmarked for transfer to the National Development Agency. Then 24 million in 2025-26 and 28.1 million in 26-27 and 29.1 million in 27-28 is earmarked for the establishment of the Inspectorate for Social Assistance. Part of the briefing for the Standing Committee on Appropriation, the department was requested to provide a report on the department's spending plans on the current allocations to address high vacancy rates, funding for social assistance grant, and difficulties in supporting non-profit organizations. And part of that also, we were requested to also report on the department's plan to accommodate previously excluded grant recipients following the Gauteng's High Court judgment on declaring the regulations of SRD grants unconstitutional and invalid. Included is also the detailed report on the challenges experienced in the department's administration of the social grants, as well as the criteria used by SASSA together with the registered credit bureaus, identified the 210,000 social grants recipients as ineligible to receive social grants. The first part, which is the comprehensive report on the department's spending plans on the current allocations to address high vacancy rates. The report is as follows. The department has appointed the following positions. The department has appointed the Director General. They've also appointed the Chief Financial Officer and the Deputy Director for Welfare Services, including the CEO of SASSA. The remaining positions are at various stages of filling, and some are already advertised, and some are at the interview stages. All other identified positions will be filled within this financial year ending 31st of March 2026. Thank you, DG.
Thank you very much. Can I then ask the CFO of SASSA to take us through the remaining of the slide? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DJ. Good morning. My name is Zageri Wachauke. I'm the CFO of SASSA, Honorable Chairperson of Standing Committee on Appropriation, Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio of Social Development, Honorable Members of the Standing Committee on Appropriation and Social, and also the Portfolio on Social Development. Honorable Minister, I do want to take you through the remaining of the slides at a high level as Chairperson you've guided. If I can have the next slide. I think this slide, Honorable Chair, is just to indicate what has been indicated by the DSD CFO, that indicate the allocations in terms of how the grants, the social assistance have been allocated, and I don't need to repeat that, but I think of importance, maybe the last bullet point that indicate the numbers of the grants that will reach in terms of the 25-26 that we're planning, that with the services being extended to all the citizens and everyone that is in need, we'll be able to take it to 19.5 million by the end of this financial year. And this will progressively increase, and thinking that we should be able to reach 20.4 million, spending about 271 billion by 2027-2028. I think these numbers are quite very important, Honorable Chair, because the impact in how we'll be able to address the committee on the conditions set by Treasury. These numbers, Chair, without me reading all of them, in the slide and the next slide, which is the slide that indicate what we plan to have as the numbers by the midterm, and also the numbers by the end of the financial year. Just for example, as I'm not going to deal with each and every one of them, is that we are planning that at least with the services, should be able to reach about 4.1 million of beneficiaries in the receipt of the old persons grant by the midterm. But by the end of the financial year, we should be able to sit at 4.2 or 4.3 million of the older persons in receipt of the grant. So these numbers will run the same way. I don't need to repeat them even in the next slide. I think just indicate our projected target without going on one by one. If I can have the next slide, please. The next slide, the slide, the Chairperson just indicate specifically for the benefit in terms of the social relief of distress, which is the 370. This we have received 35 billion as an allocation for the year 25-26. We also received an administrative funding for this for 1 year So this has been extended for only 1 year. It will end at the end of March 2026, with the allocation of 300 million. That would be the administrative cost for this grant. And that is part of the 8 billion that we have indicated that SASSA has received from the department or from Treasury. And therefore, their allocation included 300 million, and therefore that was a once-off. So it means that it's not part of the baseline over the MTF. I think you will see that in 2026, 27, and 27, 28, there is no allocation because the allocation is only for 1 year. The CFO did indicate that we currently had a court judgment that declares the regulations to be not compliant to the Constitution. We have already appealed this judgment, both ourselves and the department, because it has a very serious ramification if ever it was to be allowed or to stand. Also, what is also very much important, Chair, is that SASSA has already started with the initiatives just to make sure that we cut the cost and also bring the efficiencies, but also focus on any inclusion or exclusion errors. And for the year 24-25, just around 2.5 billion could not be spent because we have introduced additional requirements or validation process that include the biometric identification on grants that are suspended. We still have even some of the grants where we have put on hold and we require the people that have applied just to come and give additional information in terms of the biometric identification, just to validate indeed that the application is correct and therefore we can disperse that money. The next slide, Chair. The next slide, which is this slide, it has to do with the department spendings on the current limits.
Why did you fight with her?
Honorable Waitlin, can you keep your device please on mute?
My apologies, Chair.
So this slide, Chair, at the high level, it just indicates what the Department of Social Development is currently responsible. They're responsible for 22 non-profit organizations to the value of 3 million rand. And during the recent budget reductions, the NPO were affected by this. Although there was a consideration of the inflation increases that were affected over the MTF. These organizations, Chair, that were a part of this budget or part of the appropriation bill, and in terms of the PFMA, this will not be decreased without the approval or the final discussion with National Treasury. Department did not support 2 organizations in the previous period due to non-compliance issues. However, the department did try to assist these organizations to become compliant during the financial year. In terms of the non-profit organization being supported by the Provincial Department of Social Development, the funding shortfall has been tabled as part of the MTF or National Treasury or MINCO budget process. This will address as part of the provincial budget process over the MTF. Next slide. Chair, I think this is what the committee did actually want to understand. What are the ramifications or what will be the implication of declaring the regulations of the SRD grants unconstitutional and invalid. The department did sought a leave to appeal the High Court judgment regarding the constitutionality of the SRD regulations. We are of the view that the regulations were appropriate and therefore the judgment should be set aside. The department has indeed been granted leave to appeal this judgment. This means that until the final ruling is made in this regard, then the initial housing judgment is suspended accordingly. The approach to exclude the recipient depends on the reason for the exclusion. So in case of the beneficiary who did not receive payment, they may be suspected of fraud or incorrect banking information. In this case, SASSA sends messages to these applicants to provide accurate information to facilitate payment and to present themselves for verification where necessary, where fraud is suspected. In case of beneficiaries who are excluded because they are deemed to be ineligible, their recourse is to submit a bill through online system, and this is in terms of the srd.appeals.co.za, and this appeal is handled by the department, and accordingly, SASSA receive feedback in this regard and implement that. The appeals tribunal is required to conclude its decisions within 90 days following the appellant is notified of the decision. Where the appeal is successful, SASSA is notified accordingly and directed to effect payment within 1 month of receipt of that. Chair, on the next slides is just to deal with the 210,000 social grants recipients that were seen to be ineligible or identified as an inclusion error. In the next slide, Chair, next slide, if I can have it. So in February 2025, Chair, we did receive a preliminary allocation from the department after the department has received the preliminary allocation from National Treasury, and it had 6 compliance conditions. Following this, we did receive a revised allocation letter from SASSA, from the department as SASSA on the 4th of June, and they expanded these conditions to 9. Now these conditions, as we've received it, they are binding and directly linked to the approved budget for 25-26. I think I will deal with them specifically because you requested me to be able to provide more information around it. I think without repeating this slide, Chair, I would really prefer that I go into them. But in terms of the 210,000 social grants that are currently fingered, we are currently be able to liaise with them and to make sure that they come to all SASSA offices, and we should be able to review them. And if ever then they are still eligible, then we'll be able to process their grants. But if ever then they are not eligible, then we should be able to suspend and subsequently cancel the grants. So let me deal with this immediately so that I don't really waste much of the time when I deal with the conditions. If I can just have the conditions. And the next slide, please. Yes, yeah. So Chair, I deal with the conditions that are set, and we will spend a bit of time on some of the conditions that we believe that they may be material in this regard and for the committee's consideration and guidance. So condition number 1, when we received the letter in February, was that SASSA should be able to do income checks on applicants and recipients of the child support grant for all the grants. But on consideration of that letter, we have made a proposal to the department, and the department subsequently submitted a response to Treasury. In our view and our proposal was that although we accept, because reviews is part of our process, it's part of our work, we propose a staggered approach that we'll be able to start with the child support grant, and therefore we'll go to the other grants in September. We did receive a response from Treasury that Treasury was not amenable for us to be able to have a staggered approach, but they preferred that we do a big bang approach. Our thinking, Chair, because it is quite important that we need to really contextualize why we propose a staggered approach. Number 1, we understood that doing an income checks through the banks is a risk assessment. It's a risk assessment process. So the income that many of the beneficiaries will receive through the bank will just tell us whether the people are in receipt of other income or any income above the threshold. And if we have identified and fingered them, we can call them for a proper review where we'll be able to ask relevant questions to be able to know whether the income that they receive on monthly basis or annually or their assets exceed the determined thresholds. And based on that, we'll either cancel the grant or will allow the grant to continue. And during that process, we understood that we should be able to really make sure that SASSA has the capacity to deal with all the numbers that will come to the offices. So we didn't want to disrupt the operations of the SASSA offices because already SASSA is rendering the administration of other grants in terms of application, in terms of queries, and therefore bringing the large volume to the offices may not be desirable. The second thing that we also looked into it was to really look at what should be the appropriate notification process. Because for a person to come for a review, you will have to really notify them accordingly. So we understand that people that live in villages and some people that live in informal settlement, then we'll have to find an appropriate mechanism to notify them. So if you register a letter, you send a registered letter to them. Most of them, they don't have a registered postal addresses, or the postal addresses that we may have may not be appropriate. If we utilize the cell phone notification, we need to understand the limitation around it, that our beneficiary also changes the numbers. So the only time that you'll be able to see the high number, sometimes it will be at a time when you suspend a grant, not at the time of notification. So we needed to make sure that this is catered for accordingly, that we can at least build a momentum to find an appropriate way to engage with our people, because we didn't want just to make a general statement that people must come for the appeal, just for the review, when we are looking only for the few of them. So based on that, we had a staggered plan just to be able to really address some of those risks that we need to do. As part of this process, Chair, I can indicate that before we even implement the condition, we needed to have an agreement with the banks, which we have reached an agreement with the banks. Secondly, we have to allow the banks to build the rails so that we can share the information. So it was easier for the SRD 370 because the means test is the same. But for the other grants, the means test is not the same. So the requirement for an old age grant is different to the one for CSG, and the requirement to assess and the income threshold that you require for a married person is different to a person who is not married. So the banks has to really make a lot of adjustment in terms of that system. So those things requires a bit of time. So if we receive the conditions, then we believe that at least the time must be reasonable for us to be able to build the processes and the systems to make sure that it runs accordingly. Currently, we are still in busy discussion with the banks that are building that, but we did not stop there. So, Chair, we looked at the information and the contracts that we have, which is to have the alternative. And the alternative was the credit bureaus, because we had that information. So the credit bureaus will be able to give us information in terms of the income, the employment history, the latest details of contacts of those people. And therefore, that's what we have used actually to identify those that are part of the 210,000. Our plan, Chair, Honorable Chair, is to really do 20,000 per month, culminating to 240 per annum. And we do commit that in event that we find efficiencies and this process is running smoothly, those numbers can be increased so that we do not have many of the beneficiaries affected or either not meet the conditions for treasury. The next one. The next condition, Chair, it has to do with us continuing with subjecting all applicants to the other database like Home Affairs, Correctional Services, PERSOL, UF, and GPF on registration, or at least biannually. We can commit and indicate, Chair, that this is doable. We are currently utilizing this database on the application for the 370. Over and above, we have introduced the bank checks under the 370. However, Chairperson, we understood that condition number one, if you were to implement the condition number one successfully, where you are checking the incomes with the banks, there may not be any reason actually why you should go to the other ones, because all the payments are converged into a bank account. And therefore, if we have had agreement with all the banks, then you might find that the databases themselves might not necessarily assist that much because you'll be able to find the source of where the money is deposited, and therefore you can check whether the person is getting the money around it. The other thing that we have been, our learning was that when we dealt with the 370, we have realized that these databases are not up to date. We have an audit issues, I think, around them on the completeness, and that the database are not updated and updated accordingly. I think one database that we have had and we received even the MI was the issue of the UIF. Because that database gave us a lot of challenges until we resolved that we can at least get to use the plans. And therefore, the department gave us an authorization that we can override information on the database if we can have a proof that in the bank account there was no income coming to that. In addition, Chair, we are also planning for the enhancement. We are launching a data purification program just to make sure that the data that we have about our own beneficiaries is accurate and updated. We're also bolstering the cybersecurity through advanced technologies and skills training. And this, we have started actually looking at the cost around it and the business cases. I can confirm that the business case and project plans, including the related costs, are being developed and being considered by the agency as part of the reprioritization of the administration and bring efficiency. In the next slide, Chair, you will find as condition number 3 that the letter from the department and treasury did indicate that we should have an agreement with SARS. I can confirm that we have an MOU with SARS, but understanding that the tax period only happens once in a year, and therefore, and getting a direct interface with SARS, there are conditions and limitations in terms of the law. We have this information, SARS shares information with us, and we utilize that information to validate or to identify any person that might be above the threshold, because the whole purpose is just for us to get the information of the person that is paying tax and therefore might be getting a grant around that, because all grants are mistested except one, which has to do with the grant that deals with the children that are offense or either they are not in the care, which has to do with the court order that may receive. The next slide deals with the agreement with NSFAS. I can confirm that we do have an MOU with NSFAS in terms of the implementation of this. However, we don't have a live interface with NSFAS just to be able to check this information directly. But of importance is that we have checked the stipends that are received from NSFAS, which is around 2,000, which is less than what the threshold for a child support grant is. And therefore, we might be spending interfaces on areas that probably might not necessarily give us much value around it. But in terms of liaising with NSFAS and having the data, we do have it and we'll be able to utilize it. I can confirm that we still continue with engagement with the Department and National Treasury just to be able to really see the value add of this condition and whether or not we should still continue with it as it is. The next one, condition, Chair, it had to do with SASSA implementing or intensifying the biometrics. I can confirm that we have started implementing this for the SRD grants. The people that we put on the first deserts, we do require them to come and verify themselves biometrically. And therefore, this can be taken into the main grants. From this year, we'll be rolling out that program to the main grants, which will also be part of the application process going forward, which is something that is doable in this regard. Condition number 6, which I will share with you, it has to do with reporting. I can confirm that Chairperson, this is doable. It's just to draft a report based on this. I think the first report that will be due on the 30th of July will give us a sense of where we are and what is doable, and also bring actually the challenges that we have incurred or we have experienced during the first quarter of 25-26. So that it is doable. Condition number 7, Chair, it is what it becomes very difficult for SASSA. Condition number 7 that we're sharing with you is that following the passing of the Appropriation Act 2025, SASSA funds allocated to SASSA should not be transferred by the department in the event where, as determined by National Treasury, satisfactory progress has not been made on all conditions. This is applicable from the month following the month in which the Appropriation Act is passed. I think this honorable chair is the difficulty that SASSA finds itself into, and it brings a very difficult situation in this regard. One is that although SASSA is committed to make sure that these conditions are met, we have put the resources aside, we have tried to put even the warm bodies aside. But I can indicate, just like I said, when the conditions came in, they said we should do the bank verification. Currently, we have used an alternative using the credit bureaus. We do not know as yet whether Treasury would deem that as a deviation from the condition. But we still actually achieve the same thing, but we did not necessarily use the banks. We have used an alternative which we found that is feasible at the time while we're still working with the banks. So we do not know when we submit the report to Treasury whether Treasury will deem that as a material deviation from the conditions. The second thing that comes into it is that if the department was to withhold the spending by SASSA, it may mean that we'll not be able to pay employees. And if we're not paying the employees, then we'll not be able to pay suppliers. We cannot guarantee what will be the implication of that at the operational level, which becomes another challenge that we might be faced with. If we decide and we want to operate an unapproved overdraft, because that's what we're going to do, because then you can be able to really say, let's pay because we don't have the funds, therefore let's operate an unauthorized overdraft. It's also a non-compliance issue that will come into that. Because the funds will be withheld until we remedy the situation. By the time we remedy the situation, whether that will be considered as a condonation of a regular expenditure or not, and even how the regular expenditure will be determined and how it will be classified, it is something that we still have to do. We have had a meeting with Treasury. Treasury has listened to our discussion. We might have to really have a follow-up meeting when we have to discuss the formal report, which will be given to them. But they were amenable to have further discussion with ourselves. We do not know what will be the final determination or whether Treasury will review the conditions or the wording in the condition so that we do not find ourselves incurring regular expenditure or find ourselves where we are unable to render the services as we will be required to do. The next slide is just to say, as I've indicated, that we very much committed to this process of reviewing to deal with the inclusion and exclusion errors. As we have already met with Treasury, we believe that at least the biometric and the EKYC enhancement will be considered and done. We also really reviewed the bank contracts. Therefore, that part we are quite happy. And therefore, we are saying that we will be able to even go beyond the 20,000 that I spoke about, that we can go to 25,000 beneficiaries per cycle, that we should be able to really enhance the issue of validating the eligibility verification in that process. So, in terms of the summary, we'll just be able to really hand back to the DG just to make the recommendation to the committee appropriately. Thank you very much, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, CFO. We recommend that the Standing Committee on Appropriation consider and support our national portfolio commitments as per medium-term strategic framework. And also, we recommend that the budget allocation for 2025 appropriation be supported, and also that response the progress made related to the special rate be noted. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DG Minister, and the Minister, the DG, and the team in the financial, the CFO, and the team for having presented to the Portfolio Committee. I will now then move to taking questions from members, given that I'm very conscious of time, and so we are going to have to be brief in our questions so that we can get another round, hopefully, and then we can proceed from there. I recognize Honorable Waitlin, Honorable Mkonto, Honorable Bateman, Honorable Munyai, Honorable Galega Mazibugo. I know you have to go, so I will by this just allow you to go first. Honorable Siate, Honorable Gamede, and then there's an honorable member from the EFF. I am a bit baffled about how do I pronounce Honorable Masango. If you could go at the end, it will be helpful as we begin to as I will. So let me just in that order. Let's start with Honorable Galega Mazibugo, and then we can go.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you for your indulgence. We are indeed about to take off. But my first question to DSD is, are they partnering with the Department of Economic Development to connect people to economic activities rather than being handouts, people depending on handouts of social services forever? So that's my first. Then my second one is that the DSD targets have decreased from 48 in the 24-25 to 42 in the 25-26, while the budget for DSD has increased from 275 in the 24-25 to 294 billion in the 25-26. Can the DSD then, Chair, explain to us why there is a decline in its targets despite a significant budget increase for 25-26? And then my last one is as regards to condition 1 attached to SASSA as presented allocation. How will SASSA distinguish between types of inflow of cash into social grants beneficiaries bank accounts, such as maintenance payments that a primary caregiver parent would receive from another parent on behalf of a child, ad hoc donations to staff of hunger in desperate situations, loans taken out from money lenders, etc. So that eligible beneficiaries of social grants are not excluded based on erroneous bank account income checks, as it is happening currently. So those are my questions, Chair. If I'm not able to hear the responses, I will hear from my colleagues what were the responses from the department. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Galega. Honorable Waitlin.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you very much. Unfortunately, I won't be able to put on my camera as I was driving, and I'm at the by-election. Chair, thank you. Honourable Minister, thanks for your time. I know that you're a busy Minister, as well as the department itself for their presentation and the team, the committee from social development. Chair, just the first matter that comes to mind is obviously that we cannot stop, obviously, the contributions to the beneficiaries in the meantime. And it seems to me there is a plan that they have submitted. I would request, Chair, if we can just clarify that that's project plan for the National Treasury's what I require from the social development. That project plan, will it be tracked and managed, and for us maybe on a quarterly basis to get feedback and see the progress, what has been made to clear the system, because it's become very clear that the system is corrupt and there's a lot of untowardness, and as far as beneficiary allocation is concerned. Is there a way that we as a committee then can track that and monitor the project plan itself? I think that's important for us, and then also get feedback from the department on a quarterly basis. Then second of all, Chair, just a question to the Honourable Minister as far as the SRD grants are concerned. the Minister of Finance has pronounced on the possibility of a shift in methodology towards an employment type of grant for job seekers. Is the department working on that? Where are we with that plan? Can we see a change coming in the next financial year? If so, can we as a committee have some sight on that and see the impact it would have? Because I know that we as a committee are very entrenched with regards to moving away from handouts to more get people to become employed. Thank you, Chair. I think I'll stop there.
Thank you. Honorable, I think we're going to move on to Honorable Mkhonto.
Thanks for the opportunity, Chair. Good morning to you, Chair, honorable members. The chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Honorable Mahlangu, and the Minister and her team. Chair, I want to join you and accept the apology from the Minister and her team for not attending, for missing the previous meeting. We accept the apology, Chair, with a hope that it won't happen again, because we were very puzzled about what happened. Chair, my first question will be the issue of the budget not accommodating the increase in frontline service staff. But then my question is, Chair, does this budget take into consideration the fact that the department has to intervene in communities that experience disasters, like what happened in Umtata, the flooding? Because, Chair, I think the Minister will agree with us that such people don't need only food parcels. They also need counseling and other related services. So does this budget, maybe in the MTEF, how many frontline social services professionals do they need, and how much is needed to accommodate that? And that which of their strategic targets or programs can they do reduce spending or do have savings without compromising the quality of the service, and put that budget in employing frontline professionals? Because, Chair, our community is marred by GBV, school bullying, drug abuse, and all these sorts of things. So we can't, in the MTEF, allow this reduction in budget and non-increase of social services staff to continue. Chair, there is a comment. Through you, Chair, Minister, there is a general complaint from specifically parents of children who are addicted to drugs, and they are admitted to government rehabilitation centers. The rules and orders they are so strict that parents think that they don't accommodate the fact that the state of mind of those children, at a slight a transgression of those rules, they become expelled. And parents are saying it needs to be looked at, because we all know that if people are intoxicated, their state of mind is not as normal as an ordinary person. Chair, with the conditions, we hope that the steps taken to comply with the conditions of the grants, specifically condition number 1, will be done successfully and to the benefit of the poor and vulnerable. And we want to see culprits held accountable, both members of the community and those in the public service. It's high time, Chair, that all those people who are defrauding our state, in whatever manner, they should be held accountable. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Mkonto. Can we move to Honorable Bateman?
I thought you noted me, Chair.
Oh, excuse me. I'll turn my video off. I see I've got a DA background. Apologies.
I did note you. Is that Honorable Skete?
You said I'm the third, Honorable Munyai. Maybe you are not familiar with me.
Oh,
I'm not common.
My humble apologies, Honorable Munyai. Yes, you are correct. I did note you. We just had to rearrange, but Honorable Bateman, it is correct. May we allow Honorable Munyai to proceed from here, and then we'll move to Honorable Bateman. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. I will switch off my video to, through your permission, to ensure that the network, the bandwidth doesn't get affected. I thank you for the opportunity. Honorable Chair, I think first and foremost is to welcome this meeting. But I must say the following, Chair. The social grants or any other form of grants, be it BIS, is not about fostering dependency. No, it's about handout. It's a direct response to South Africa's structural economic challenges, particularly the widespread unemployment, job insecurity, poverty, hunger, and the rising cost of living. I thought I should address that issues before I could come. Chairperson, I must say that one is really baffled about the treasury conditions, which are considered them to be imposed illegally. I don't know what type of advisors and the DGs that can really took an effort to impose conditions that are negatively, some of them, impacting on social relief of distress, a grant which is SRD grant, and other child support, older person and disability, and care dependency grant. That it has been imposed illegally by the Treasury because I think they've been bullying the DSD or social development. And before even the appropriation bill has been passed, already they prematurely advanced that course. And I'm saying that some of the conditions are affecting. There's nothing wrong to verify and review if there's a risk of fraudulent. Firstly, also, I'll welcome the SASSA and the department to combat fraud and corruption. But these conditions, they are placing high burden on the beneficiaries. And I don't understand why they even refuse. Just look at even condition number 7. They don't even want to advance which department has been granted a budget, Chair? And the social development is the only department that has been granted a budget plus a conditions. We want to appeal, Chairperson, to this portfolio committee, humbly so, that these treasury conditions must be reversed. Must be reversed. Because they've been first and foremost done before even the appropriation bill has been passed. They are severe and they are impacting on the life of our people. There are ordinary issues, for instance, Chair, that the SASSA and the department has been following, cross-checking if the people are conducting fraud, cross-checking their income. Those issues has been there. To me, I think, Chairperson, it remains my view that the Treasury is tempted to wanting to take over the disbursement of this budget on behalf of SARS, which will be illegal because all these entities that do these things, they're doing it within the legislative mandate. By the way, our role is to conduct oversight over this budget. So they want to take our responsibility of conducting oversight over the department and SASAs and agencies. And I think the condition, issuing the budget with conditions, and they should take a posture and a view that a staggered approach with respect to number 7, it's an appropriate fact to be pursued. And I think, in my view, Chairperson, this condition, in my view, it is aimed at collapsing the SRD grant, as the CFO would have said that beyond 2026 or 26-27, the budget with regard to SRD grant is almost getting done away with. Agro-reading-based biometrics profiling, it can also segregate in terms of racial base. And there's also people that phone ourselves that says that, look, some of us who doesn't have dependency are no longer receiving the grant. It has been suspended in the context of review. So these issues, Chair of the Treasury conditions, are of a problem. That the issues that we understand that it can be done to monitor so that there's no fraud, because as the African National Congress, we are anti-corruption, fraud and corruption. So the mechanism that SASA has been deploying and continue to deploy, to make sure that there's no fraud and corruption, that is welcome. But to ultimately prematurely impose the conditions and also indicating that this budget is conditional. We want to impress upon yourself to say that all the budget should not come with conditions. Department of DS Social Development and the agencies, they should be given the executive authority to run the department. We will conduct the legislative oversight on the budget and the program that they presented before a portfolio committee. So we will appeal. I will be very happy that, Chairperson, that if the minister was here, because to understand our concern. And these issues of prioritizing other policy program at the cost of the SRD and social grants is a problem. It's a problem for ourselves, Chairperson, and I think it's impacting a lot on the beneficiaries. And not only the beneficiaries, and some of the, not only SRD beneficiary, but some of the beneficiaries with respect to disability and all other forms of support that they receive from the SASA. So the point is the following, Chairperson, that let the Treasury please lift these unreasonable conditions, including that one of number 7, and follow a posture of staggering approach, rather than just ultimately placing a very serious condition. And if, for instance, the conditions that they put forward, which I know they do, and they would want that the department to falter, which it will not be able to depend on them, because these issues depend on the third party for verifications. Chair, I'm not going to waste your time because we have invited the Treasury to come and present before the Portfolio Committee and other stakeholders on the condition they imposed, which is a burden to the South African poor majority who are vulnerable. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Munyai. Can I have Honorable Bateman then?
Thanks, Honourable Chair, and good morning to all my honourable colleagues, and thank you to the Minister and all those from the department who are here today, and also colleagues from the other committee who are here. I think I'll try and be brief because I think much of the ground has been covered already, but I think there is obviously concern about the widespread abuse of the social grant system. And so to me, I can see why National Treasury would be expecting a tightening of checks and controls. However, we can't put the grants, the social grants, at risk while those checks and controls are being put into place. So there needs to be an engagement, I think, between the department and the Treasury to work out a plan that is actually realistic and achievable, that gets that balance right, so that the department is accountable to make sure that the checks and controls are put in place, but also the beneficiaries are able to still continue receiving their grants in the meanwhile. So I think that's sort of the perspective I would be proposing in this situation. I do have just a few specific questions, and I think the detail of the conditions that needs to be hammered out between the department and Treasury. So I'm not going to go too far down this line, but I would just ask this question: are the bank checks applied only to the bank for which the details are provided by the recipient? Because that's quite easily circumvented. I mean, a recipient could have more than one bank account, and so I would think that the goal of this checking should be to actually check every person across all of the banks at least once a year. 20,000 bank income checks per month, in my opinion, is hopelessly low. That sounds to me like it's almost a manual result. These checks should be automated, and it shouldn't be a difficult thing to do every person once a year, and I think that should be the goal. The credit bureau checks, I think, as a backup measure to the bank checks. I'd be interested to know what the cost is of actually conducting those checks. Also, whether those checks have been fully automated, or whether there's still a manual component in that system, because that might be why the 20,000 a month is the number. Because, as I say, I think that's really very poor and low. And I would think probably the direct interface with the banks is going to be more cost effective and time efficient. But again, I think all of those things need to be hammered out in debate and discussion, and I'd be interested to know what the feedback is from the department on those technical questions. And then I just had one follow-up question is, and I'm only been in Parliament a year, so forgive me, this is probably before my time, this is all set up, but what is the reason behind having SASSA and the NDA as separate entities, public entities, with their own administrations? Why are they not just part of the whole department, as components of the department? Perhaps if someone can give me some understanding into the rationale behind that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Bateman. Honorable Kamede, the EFF member, if I pronounce it, is it Honorable Mare?
Yes, Chairperson. Thank you so much, Chairperson.
Okay, I know that Honorable. You did soon after Honorable Segete. If you can go after that, and then we'll go.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you.
So who is it now, Chair? Is it me?
Chair, am I even noted though?
Yes, Honorable Siate, you are next. You are last after Honorable Mare. Honorable Mare did put her hand up first. I could not read her device name at the time. At this point, Honorable Kamete is next. And then Honorable Siate, you are after Honorable Mare. Is that okay?
That's
Okay,
fine.
thank
Chair.
You can proceed, Honorable Kamete.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. No, one notices the Department of Social Development continued effort to reinvent itself and contribute to an improved quality of life for the poor and vulnerable, despite significant budget reductions and increased demand for services. and also it's recommendable, as demonstrated by the detailed annual performance plan and commitment to the key strategic priorities. Given the significant budget reduction for provincial departments for social development and its stated negative impact on the appointment of social service professionals and funding for non-profit organizations, what specific strategies will the Department of Social Development implement to mitigate these critical service delivery gaps and also ensure continued support for vulnerable populations, especially considering the increased social ills and poverty levels? My second but last question, the document highlights the National Treasury's compliance conditions for SASSA's allocation are binding, and non-compliance could lead to withheld funds or irregular expenditure. How will the Department of Social Development and SASSA ensure full adherence to these conditions, particularly rating the bank income checks, and also data accuracy issues with various databases to avoid disruptions in social grant disbursements and also maintain service continuity for beneficiaries? I would like to stop there, Chairperson. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Member. Can we have then Honorable Marais?
Thank you so much, Chairperson. I would like to greet the honorable members, the chairperson of social development, and all protocol of the department as well. Chairperson, I'm from the Department of Social Development, and I want to explain to the department that we are now with the concerns that we are having as Department of Social Development. Even though there's a shortfall on the Department of Social Development, because we know we have a problem with gender-based violence, with teenage pregnancy, the crisis that we are having, that we don't have enough social workers, the crisis we are having with the NPOs that are not being paid, the crisis of the SRD grant, where people are not getting the grants. But the concern that we are having here at the very moment, Chairperson, is that on the contrary here, that the Department of National Treasury is putting all these rules in front of the Department of Social Development for not, if you're not adhering, you're not going to get the money. We need to look very carefully. We are talking about older persons here. Our old people, like my mother, I send them money every month. I buy electricity every month. I make sure that she's having everything. So what what Treasury is saying, if you have an extra income, you cannot get your social grant. What are we going to tell our older persons? Because the older persons cannot cope with the money that they are getting from social development to pay electricity, to pay water, to pay rates and taxes, to buy food, to have medication. And this is going to be a huge crisis for our older persons and everyone with disability, even the SRD grants. Because to have all these measures in place is like the Department of Treasury is bullying the Department of Social Development. We have the right to make sure that our people are living and getting these social grants. Our older persons were working all their lives. Today, they are dependent on a social grant because those years they didn't have all these things. And now they must be penalized. We are getting phone calls, we are getting WhatsApps, we're getting SMSs of older persons that did not get the grants already because the implementation of the verification has started already. This is going to be a huge crisis. Our people are going to die of hunger because of these implementations that the Department of Treasury wants to introduce to our department. Yes, there is shortfalls. Yes, there is problems. Yes, there is corruptions. But you cannot impose things on people and think people must just abide by it, because we all our children, we are supporting our parents and our grandparents. So the mere fact that you are getting an extra income, you're not going to get your pension. And then it is unfair. It is very unfair. How are we going to make sure that these old people are going to get their money? We're not talking about rich people that is having trust accounts somewhere else where they are getting money every month and where they're getting support every month. We're not talking about that. We don't have a problem when the Treasury wants to investigate people that work for for departments, but working for correctional service, that work for government departments. We don't have a problem with that, because that is where the corruption is happening within the departments itself. But you cannot penalize our own people for what is happening now. And they insist by saying you're going to get your grant because you must abide by these rules. That is basically impossible to do in this short space of time. So I want to notify the other department that we are sitting with today is that, yes, we know the shortfall, we know of everything, but we cannot penalize our old people and the disabled people because the department is not capable of doing what they want in time. We're going to allow a lot of people not to get their social grants. And we are going to see people dying of hunger because of this, Chairperson. This is a massive issue that we are sitting with at the moment that gives us sleepless nights, because old people has already been told by security guards, you can't come in because you can't get your money. I mean, what are we going to say to our old people? What are they going to live by? And a lot of these old people are supporting their children and grandchildren because of the unemployment that is so high in South Africa. And that is why we come into this department to say, look at our problem. Yes, we know we're having shortfalls, but we need your assistance to make sure that Treasury do not penalize us because of this, because now Treasury is basically a bully, is bullying us now. And we cannot allow to be bullied. Yes, they can put things forward, but they cannot come and say it's because millions of South Africans are poor. They are waiting for this social grant every month to survive. And now we say, because you are getting extra money from your children, you cannot get this grant. It is not fair, Chairperson. We're going to have a massive outcry, a massive crisis, and this country is going to come to a standstill if we don't give our older persons and the people with disability their grants because they are getting support from the family members, Chairperson. I want the portfolio to listen very carefully. I am one of the person that fight the Department of Social Development. I'm one of the person that always critique them. I'm one of the person that always say, this is not right. But we cannot allow a situation like this where we are being bullied by Treasury by saying, if we don't come up with these demands, you cannot get the money. What are we going to tell our old people? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Seate.
Thank you very much, Chair. Greetings to everybody, all members, all other members who joined us today. Chair, I cannot stress out the disappointment that I have here on the conditions that are placed. I'm going to be speaking precisely on condition 2, 5, and 6, and it's really a disgrace to have SASSA together with National Treasury, I think, introducing systems that are really affecting directly the very beneficiaries that must be assisted. And it's a disgrace that even their geographics and even their conditions economically, geographically, they really misunderstood. I don't think there's a lot of attention. I don't think there's focus that is placed on their living conditions and where they exist geographically. So these systems really, they are very problematic. And I share similar sentiments that have been raised with by the previous speaker. So with regards to the condition 2, Chair, attached to the SASSA location, the database verification has been widely shown to be inaccurate because, Chair, government database are not updated in real time, and the presentation would have also emphasized that. Now, the information contained in the database does not necessarily reflect a beneficiary's current status. And more interestingly, Judge Twala found the use of database checks for eligibility verifications to be unconstitutional and is unlawful. So there is a case here, and there is criminality that really we can recognize because there is a judgment on it. Now, expanding this method of verification commonly used in the SRD grants to other grants would result in an unfair exclusion of hundreds and thousands of vulnerable people who do not have ability to support themselves, including the newborn babies, Chair, including children living with disabilities, including child-headed families, including a whole range of people that are communities that are supported by this living in their respective conditions. Now, considering these concerns, can the DSD explain to the committee how then SASSA will mitigate against the impact of inaccurate database checks on social grants implication and beneficiaries? And in terms of condition 5, also attached to this allocation, the SASSA fully equipped and trained, is SASSA really trained and equipped? Is the capacity really that they can say it's ready, it's there is infrastructure to verify biometrics of applicants and current beneficiaries of the longer standing social grants, such as the child school support, the child support grant and older persons? I really don't think, Chair, there's a consideration of being realistic there. I don't think they really are giving a reflection of a true sense of the capacity that even that department or SASSA itself has, because I don't think there is really trained. There's not much that was said about trained infrastructure, human resource that really would focus on the biometrics of these applicants and verifying as per their justification. And lastly, the condition 6 attached to SASSA allocation makes it explicitly clear, Chair, that the motivation for these conditions is to achieve savings, is to reduce costs. It is a disgrace. It is very easy to infer from this that the National Treasury will assess SASSA on the number of applicants rejected, suspensions, and cancellation of existing grants and rent savings achieved. In short, Chair, the metric that SASSA is to be assessed on is not the quality of the service delivery or number of vulnerable people living in poverty who receive support from the state, but rather on the number of social grants they cancel. It is an issue of wanting to cancel here. It's not trying to there's nothing to do with crime and mitigating things or investigating other things. This is very egregious and unjustifiable. You can't justify this. In respect of this, Chair, can the DSD share with the committee then the measures it has put in place to ensure that savings that National Treasury is hoping to achieve through these conditions do not drastically and unfairly exclude many deserving people who receive the various grants from the social security system? And with that said, Chair, thank you very much. Those will be my 3 questions.
Thank you very much. Let me allow Honorable the Chairperson of this of the Committee on Social Development, Honorable Masango. Honorable Gamede, can I ask you to put your hand down? I think otherwise it confuses the program. Thank you, Honorable Masango.
Thank you, Honorable Maimane, for this opportunity. When I said a few words earlier on, I omitted to just recognize and the presence of my minister, my Honorable Minister Dulashe, in the meeting, and the leaders in the department, and the.
Honorable Skete.
Yeah, they didn't recognize me.
Oh, as you can tell, even on your device, your hand isn't up. But we will take your input straight after the Honorable Chair was on the floor. Thank you, Honorable Skete.
Okay, thank you.
Honorable Chairperson, if the Honorable Sikede wants to go before me, I do not mind that at all.
Given that you'd already begun, Honorable Chairperson, yeah, I think if
Thank
you
you
can.
so much. No problem at all. Chairperson, I just want to agree to a large extent with the comments that have been made. I do this because and to a certain extent, the committee's expectation was to know the intent of the conditions. whatever conditions that are put forward, if we know what the intent of those conditions are, and if the intent is not to disadvantage the very people that have already been categorized as poor and vulnerable. Because one look at these conditions, as the honorable who spoke before me said, have nothing to do with ensuring that the coverage of the poor and vulnerable is ensured with the social grant that are there for government to ensure that those people who cannot help themselves are helped, so that they have lives that they are not in poverty deeper than where they are already. But Chairperson, during the presentation of the department, there was a point or a slide that spoke to what the department is already doing, or what the agency, SASSA, is already doing. And for me, that is what the National Treasury should have asked for, because one read the letter that came from the DG of the Department of Social Development to National Treasury way back when this was introduced. I believe it was in December 2024. And they are speaking of, number one, the situation of capacity in the agency. They are saying that the agency is running at 50%, in some cases 40%. So if you have 40% capacity, how can you then also call for people to come to your offices and say, come here so that we can verify and do all these checks and balances? Because you will then have the queues that are so long, that are making it so undignified for the 94-year-olds to be sitting in front of SASSA offices, because there is no space for them to get into the offices, even on a Monday, which is allocated to older persons. But that is not the purpose for this meeting. Chairperson, the other thing that the slide that I'm referring to is the data purification. Let us have the capacity bolstered. Let us have the systems bolstered in SASSA. Let us have the purification of records of contacts for people. Let us have all those things that will make it easy for these data records to be up to date, and so on and so forth. We also are hearing of databases such as that of the South African Revenue Services being significantly outdated. 6 months is given as an example of the outdatedness of the data of SARS. Now, what happens to a person who then applies in the intervening period, and then this database that is outdated is used, and the outcome is not in favor of this person? Then they are not getting a grant that they need so much to literally just have food on their table. So, Chairperson, I would like to stop there, because there were so many other things that I'm just saying that as far back as 2020, the AG Maluleke spoke to these checks and balances that are used on outdated databases, on systems that are not adequate, that are used to exclude people that need the grants more, but those that don't need the grants are the ones that are getting the grants. So why are we using those systems if they are not doing what we want to do? And I see the same pattern with these conditions that have been put by National Treasury. So my submission, Chairperson, without asking any question at all, is to say, let us reverse this process. Let us lift the conditions until we know that SASSA is ready. The state of readiness of SASSA is there to do the data checks, because now we don't have a 50 or 40% staff capacity, but we have more. Because now we have purified the records of the beneficiaries in the systems of SASSA, so that when you send an SMS to a person to say, I want to verify you, they will get that SMS. Because we know that the post offices are not there. The post offices have been closed, so no letter will get to the people. People that live in informal settlements don't have addresses for you to send a letter. So literally, this person will know that they need to be reviewed or verified when their grant is not at the bank, when they go to the bank to receive it. And that cannot happen. That is unconstitutional. That is just inhumane. It is rendering the entire government, saying that the government is spending so much money on grants, futile, because those people are not going to get these grants if we go ahead with these conditions. And I don't know why we got to a stage where these conditions are binding and no money will be. How is that even legal? How is that even constitutional? And Chairperson, that is my submission. Let's lift this. Let's purify. Let's bolster the capacity at SASSA, and let's make sure that the databases that we are using are up to date, because they will continue to disadvantage people. If a person has lost their job last month or 2 months ago, and then we're using a 6-month-old database to see if they are still receiving their UIF and so on and so forth. Please support this. I'm appealing to the Standing Committee to please support our request for lifting of these conditions until SASSA state of readiness is such that they can carry out the conditions for the intent that we do not know. I do not know it. I would like to know what the intent of these conditions is, because it's definitely not for the people of this country who are already poor and vulnerable. Thank you so much, Chairperson, for the opportunity.
Thank you, Honorable Masango. And then I'll move over to Honorable Skete.
No, thank you, Chair. Let me also welcome the presentation. I won't be long, Chair. Only 2 questions. Mine is just, Chair, given that the High Court found that the DSD and SASSA have been forced to keep the SRD grants approvals artificially low, with narrow eligibility criteria and flawed verification systems, in order to stay with the budget cap imposed by the National Treasury. How will the department accommodate previously excluded SRD grant beneficiaries if the appeal against the High Court ruling is unsuccessful? Related to this, would the payments of those unconstitutionally and unlawfully excluded from the SDR grant be backdated? If not, why not? The second question, Chair, is that the Committee of Inquiry into the Comprehensive System of Social Security for South Africa, which was known as the Taylor Committee, recommended that a small basic income be phased in nationally. More importantly, the department supported this proposal by the Taylor Committee. But unfortunately, both National Treasury and the Presidency opposed the introduction of the basic income, deeming it as unaffordable. And the proposal was later rejected. Now, considering this, Chair, the DSD will be submitting a draft policy for the basic income support to Cabinet for approval. How will the DSD ensure that this draft policy garners support from the Presidency and National Treasury, so that it is not rejected on the basis of affordability? Thank you, Chair. That was my 2 questions.
True to form, Honorable Skete, you have stuck to the time. Let me thank the department. The There are a number of questions that I might hold. Some have been covered by our colleagues. I just want to know the transition from SRD to BIG, or the basic income support. Is there a report? Is there documentation that the department is working on? I certainly note and welcome many of the questions that speak to the issue of the conditions and the lifting thereof. It would seem some of the capacity issue are unrealizable. I was a bit puzzled by the relationship that is imposed between SASSA and NSFAS. I just want to understand the interlinkages there, and what I do believe that given the conditions that are imposed upon that, it seems to me, given that the initial letter was in I think it was in January, and then the next one is now in June, that the withholding of funds as a condition seems to be one that, if I'm correct, as per the presentation, has impact on over 200,000 people. And so this becomes one that is unrealizable in any condition, and therefore it requires the Treasury to account on this issue, and certainly will raise the question not only on behalf of the department, but equally so as part of our bilateral engagements with National Treasury, so that you can take as read. I just want to understand those two questions up front. So, Minister, let me allow you to respond, and then let's see how well we can do given the consciousness of time as we head towards 12.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chairperson, once again. We appreciate the fact that you do accept our apology on the what took place last time we were supposed to appear before your committee. Also appreciate the fact that members are also accepting our profuse apology. Chair, I'm just going to talk to the high-level issues and allow the department led by DG to speak on the detail. I must say, Chair, it baffled us to receive the conditions that we did from National Treasury. However, because SASSA Act dictates us that we should be the one who must disburse grants, and that is according to SASSA Act as Schedule 3A public entry. So we have nothing but to adhere to what the National Treasury is saying, because according to what legislation framework dictates to us, that's our responsibility. Secondly, Chair, we must also, as we are agreeing with all your questions and concerns, we are on the same boat for majority of time for obvious reasons, because the establishment of SASSA was clear at the time and very important, which is now even extremely important given the fact that all of us, we all agree that the economy is not growing for reasons beyond our understanding. Therefore, the fiscus is shrinking, and in that means that the jobs are lost. Therefore, our people do need a net that can rescue them from what they are going through, not because of their choice. So we are at the same page insofar as that, and those concerns are because this is what we are going through. Chair, we want to assure you that on the issues of social workers and all other people that needs to be part and parcel of social service practitioner, according to the plan 2030, we're supposed to have 55,000 by that time. At the present moment, we are at 23,569. Therefore, it suggests that we are far below to what is expected. However, this matter is now before the cabinet, as the 7th administration did take it upon itself to present this to the department, to the cabinet. Because if you say the country is engulfed by the gender-based violence and femicide, there's abuse of alcohol, there's crime, Therefore, you need adequate people to deal with such on a street level so that by the time you get to institutions that are supposed to deal with those, people would have gone through a process of being cancelled and so on and so on. However, Chair, as I said, this matter is now before the cabinet, and this also talked to the issues of fiscus that is shrinking and our budget that has got a lot of constraint. We must also indicate that, yes, other departments have taken upon themselves to take a bite on the outstanding number of these practitioners. And as such, we saw Department of the SAPS is employing such people, as well as Department of Social correctional services, I'm sorry. We also are looking up forward to see DPE to also embark into that. Whilst that will be a small number, but it will take a lot of stress to our people on the ground. So we accept this criticism, Chair, but we are doing something about that, but also relying on the availability of budget. Chair, about the issues of the CDA, we must really, Chair, explain to say, out of the entire budget of the Republic, we have over 1 billion to fight the scourge of substance abuse. However, this is in different departments, and us as the one that is having a relationship with CDA, National Treasurer allocated 7 million for us to deal with what is our mandate, and nothing more and nothing below. And until this changes, we can be able to do something better. Of course, Chair, we understand very well the frustrations that the members are going through because we stay in those communities where this scourge is eating up on our young people, and therefore it is eating up on our future. Chair, as this department, we have just concluded the process of Elder Persons Amendment Bill, which that process exposed to us the vulnerability of elder people on why, if you can, they might have to get more, because from the municipalities where they stay, there are no clear arrangements to make them to be understood that they are in fact receiving grants, therefore they cannot be able to pay exorbitant rates that are charged by those municipality. However, there's no system for now that seeks to link us and those so that this can be understood and they can get what is entitled to them, those little money or just reasonable amounts for them to pay so that they can remain with something on the table for them to spare for all other things that they need. This bill, if it can be signed by the president, because it's before him now, it can really change the situation, but it's not going to do it holistically, we must say, Chair, because already we get to realize that there are gaps already that you can pick up. Chair, on the issue of SRD towards BIC, yes, there is documents. We have just been called in by Portfolio Committee to come and present before it, of which we did. And this now is before the cabinet once again. And now we are waiting for the cabinet to pronounce itself on what then is going to happen towards this. Remember, ours is to develop the policy and present it before cabinet and get there to go and lobby where we can. And what we get will be the outcome of those interaction. That is how far we can go, understanding very well, Chair, as I said, our mandate and what the country is going through at the moment. And this is why, Chair, we got excited when we got to hear that you are calling us in to come and table all this. And in here, we also put before you our frustrations on this that the treasurer is doing to us, because as you would know, forever SASSA is confronted with many challenges, which sometimes even the country is going through. So as we are trying to correct those, we would remember that there was a report that we received sometime last year on the Stellenbosch boys, where we got to realize that our systems are being infiltrated, when we to follow that in trying to make sure that we seal them, other things are coming up. We are hard at work on a daily basis to make sure that our system are providing what is supposed to be in a manner that has been agreed upon, tried and tested, for SASSA to give the grant to the right person at the right moment. Indeed, Chair, we can't say there isn't much that is happening. You saw and experienced us. Some of our people or our officials who are now appearing before court because of their alleged to be involved into these atrocities. And we are happy that our systems, regardless that they are not yet watertight as we are trying, but they are able to give us an end result that is able to identify even those who are really embarking on corruption to take advantage of our systems. Chair, I'm going to give over to DG and his team for him to be able to articulate the responses that you might give. But the bottom line, Chair, is it will be our really the best time when you would have the Treasury before you to really articulate on having introduced this. How now are we going to do what the Honorable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee is articulating? Because this has always been the responsibility of both SRD and the grants that we're dispersing. But now these that are brought in are trying to cut the little that we are able to disperse to our people. We really need your assistance in this regard. Chair, it's not like we are not ready to engage. We are open to engaging. We are engaging everyone else. We get to realize sometimes we speak past each other. Sometimes the message that you are sending is not being heard. However, the criticism that is put before us, we take it those extremely serious, Chair, and you are extremely committed with TM to make sure that we improve all this. And now I'm giving on the disaster, Chair. I must speak on disaster. We are live on what is taking place at the moment, the Mthatha and KZN disaster. We're on the ground from day one, Chair. SASSA is there, not only producing or distributing food or providing food. The young people who are still going to school, whose uniforms got involved and lost in the process, we are providing that. We are trying our best to make sure that our people, to an extent, according to our budget, are well looked after. To an extent, we did take our internal audit to be on site so that our spending patterns are informed with what is budgeted for. We are really committed, Chair, to make sure that we don't repeat the mistakes that we committed at some point. Thank you so much, Chair. I'm giving over to DG and the team.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister and Chair and members. There are some few questions. I think the Minister touched on most of the issues broadly. I will just request my colleagues to provide few areas that were specific. Let me invite the CEO of SASSA to tackle those other issues, and then I will then move to the other colleagues that are here. Thank you very much. CEO of SASSA. Thank you, DG, and good morning to, I hope it's still morning to the Honorable Chair. Afternoon. Good day, Honorable Chair and members. The Minister has covered. My name is Tamba Matlo, the CEO of SASSA. It's safe to say that I think the Minister has broadly covered the issues around the conditions, and I think it is important just to highlight that we welcome the counsel from the committee, and also welcome that we need to have a further engagement with the committee in the presence of Treasury for us to be able to understand each other. Because yes, in terms of our social assistance regulations, there is a provision for the review of the grants, which we review it annually. However, the condition that comes from Treasury is putting stringent measures that forces us to increase the pace that we do this review. And we're trying to find a balanced check here that as much as we want to respond to the conditions, we must not also suffer the service delivery on the side. And I must emphasize, honorable members, because I know that in the public domain, there's an issue that says SASSA has suspended the grants. We have not suspended any grant, neither we have lapsed any grant. What we're trying to do in view of balancing both the conditions of treasury, we just increase the number of days in the payment cycle, just to allow those that have been picked up by the system to come forward. And you will notice that the delay is only a day over, just to allow them to come forward, but we have not suspended any grant. We are not legally bound to do that. So we have a process that says the beneficiaries must be given sufficient time to come forward before we even consider suspending of the grant. So we just want the honorable members to know that the grant has not been suspended. I do know that some media has already reported all this issue. So what we are trying to do, we're also trying to ramp up communication. We have lined up a few communication slots with the community radios and TV, just to clarify the position, and we also released the statement yesterday. Yeah, so, and the relationship that we have with the NSFAS is mainly that relationship of data exchange. It's just to emphasize that with the NSFAS, we do have an existing MOU that we clarify that the data that we receive for students, so those students that are subsidized through NSFAS will not receive 350 grants after they're picked up through the data exchange and the verification process. But this law doesn't apply to the normal grant, because the normal grant is the primary caregiver who will apply, and then we'll look at the relevant documentation with regards to the means testing that is in place. And we do appreciate that the issues of controls and check balances, we are trying to implement that in our implementation plan to Treasury, and we're really looking forward to further engage with Treasury in this respect with the support of Portfolio Committee, so that we get to understand each other, so we're not put under pressure to a point where we will actually disadvantage the social grant beneficiaries. So that is as far as I can summarize the questions that were raised at DG. I don't know if Brenton wants to come in, and the CFO, maybe on differentiating the incomes through the bank accounts, the income check through the bank accounts. Brenton?
Thanks, CEO. I'll speak to that quickly. Good afternoon, Honorable Chairperson, members of both committees, Honorable Minister, DG CEOs, colleagues. So this process that works slightly different from the SRD in that even though we do bank account checks, we don't suspend anyone on the basis of the information that we receive. We do then call those clients in to come in for a review, to bring 3 months bank statements with them, and then it's very similar process to a grant application process where the grant administrator will sit down with the client, go through every item on their bank statement, and determine what is income in terms of the legislation. The social assistance legislation has 9 clauses that defines income. They'll work through all of that, allows for deductions. They'll work out all the deductions that's allowed, and then come up with the final figure. So it's not, nobody will be suspended simply because they see income in their bank account. The seeing of the income is really just to then try and target the reviews to people who may have income over and above the thresholds that apply. I think one of the honorable members as well asked about the numbers that we are pushing through. So it's not fully automated. We do batch transfers. Fully automated would be if we were doing APIs, but what we do is bulk batch transfers between the different organizations that we have data. So it is a relatively fast process, and we can do millions of data checks in a very short space of time. The 20,000 that is being referred to is the capacity constraint that we have. So even though we get the data back and we check millions of clients' data in one data check, we can't do anything with that data until that client had the right to represent themselves at SASSA. And it's the review process that we're saying we can only do approximately 25,000 reviews per month. So even if we get, if we send all the data to all the banks, and we do check across all the banks, we don't just check the bank account. Not all the banks, there's 26 different banks in the country. We check about 9, which is the ones we've identified the way most of our beneficiaries bank at. The smaller banks don't have the capacity to do data exchanges with us, but we check with those banks across the board by sending the client's ID numbers to those banks, and then we get the records back. So it's not just the bank account which the client tells us is the bank account that they have. With the cost, so it costs about between 2 and 3 cents, depending which bank we're doing the data check with, per transaction, and with the credit bureaus, it costs about 40 cents to do a check with the credit bureaus. So yeah, I think that is about all.
Thank you very much, Spencer. No, thanks very much, the CEO of SASSA and the team, honorable members from both committees and chairs. There was just a few other issues in relation to the reduction of the targets over time when the budget seems to be increasing. In the real terms, I think the budget has not been increasing, and I think the capacity of Greenwood, that's why the target will reduce from 48 to 42 over time. We lost a lot of budgets each year with the budget cuts that we have, especially for compensation of employees in the department. We reduced from 836 to just under 700 in terms of our structure. So that's the reason why we have got decreased targets. There was an issue in relation to are we working with others in terms of job creation and in terms of looking at making inroads in terms of sustainability. Yes, we are. If you look at the MTDP targets, there are 3, and in all of them we are participating. And one of the things that we did, even I think the minister alluded to the fact that we went to cabinet, we were requested that we need to factor in issue of what are we doing about the poor people that we know that are able-bodied, that can be given a lease of life. We have got a program called Linking Grant Beneficiary to Sustainable Livelihood, which is a project we did a pilot, and it's working. Few people are. What it means is that you take able-bodied people that are on grants, you provide them with opportunities which include giving them some skills for entrepreneurial skills and others, they become sustainable themselves more. They form small businesses, and they become sustainable in themselves. It's not much. We're just starting. We're working together with the economic cluster that monitors the economic growth, which is not performing very well. But I think this project is doing so that we are able to link those beneficiaries that are poor and able-bodied, including the mothers of the children that are on grants, so that they could be sustainable. Something that we have already started. we were directed to work with Treasury, and we are also working with them. And I think the minister has even alluded to the fact that what we were told, what are we doing to make sure that when we send back our basic income support policy, we are persuading presidency and those that are influencers so that we can they soften their hearts so that we are able to say that it's sustainable in terms of what we will be doing. I think in others, I think the minister have answered, and I think yes, on the issue where on the conditions, I think the minister it will be best if we come together with National Treasury and we look at the we together with National Treasury and the committees, then we go through that so that we can talk together and find the common grounds in terms of what we're doing. Any other issues that has been raised, we will be able to deal with the issues. There was an issue with regard to why are we not supposed to be one, and we don't have SASA and the NDA. I think the minister is to say that there is the minds that created, I think is much better because it was done through the acts of parliament. Thank you very much, chairs of the committees and the members. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much to the leadership there. I had hoped that we would be able to get a second round of questions, but it would seem time is against us. So unless there's a matter that is absolutely urgent, I want to propose that firstly, through our committee secretariat, I have requested, I will request Mashile, if it's possible, that we schedule an urgent, at least engagement with National Treasury, so that at a very basic level, we can get their obviously commitment and response on the basis of the conditions that have been placed, given that this becomes an impact on so many beneficiaries in a different state. We can reflect it as part of having had this meeting with the Department of Social Development. We can attach the respective minutes that come from the conversations and the impression that has been given by members in this regard. And given the fact that the portfolio committee's work and budget vote is still upcoming, I do think National Treasury need to give a sense of urgent response to this issue sooner the better. So if I could propose, Honorable Masango, that we could write that communique to National Treasury, and I will alert the Minister of Finance that this must be a quick and an urgent response so that we can furnish it, hopefully prior to the time the committee then enters into debate, and then we can have an engagement going forward, because this speaks to matters of conditionality rather than matters of additional appropriation.
Yes, I agree.
If we could keep it that way, and Minister, if you are amenable to that, we can then take those steps going forward, and then take this issue from there from a committee point of view and engage National Treasury in this regard, given that they would have to come. It is part of their accountability mechanisms on the appropriation bill itself.
I agree.
Thank you. Honorable Chair, if I may, ours, Chair, is to say, please rescue us. That's all I can say. Ours just to say, please, you have defined this in the very, very correct, and ours is just to say, please rescue us. And we know for a fact that we are presenting on the 10th, which make it extremely difficult. However, because we are the one that needs to be rescued, working with our chairperson in our committee, we will put ourselves in your hands to say what else can be done within a very short space of time, because indeed the questions that are put before us by the both committees are the most relevant and are the reasons why we must read in the same page between ourselves and Treasury when it comes to this matter. Because we are on the receiving end, Chair, unfortunately, because we are the one that must implement these stringent measures. And people are cannot ever listen to us. They say, no, it's not me, it's Treasury. Because for them, we are all government that needs to understand their plight. That will be my take on this. And thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity. Thank you.
No, Minister Nkosi, what I will do is I will then CC you into the communication that we send. Mashile, if we could put that together as a matter of urgency, I'd like to have that sent off. I will alert the Director General at Treasury, and certainly I will hopefully, they are here in Cape Town because the debate is this afternoon. I'll certainly have a face-to-face with them in the afternoon before we get into the debate on National Treasury. Honorable members and to the various portfolio committees, let me first of all thank you for today's engagement. I think there is a pathway going forward. There are a number of questions. Naturally, some of them have to be processed with the portfolio committee, but for us in this instance is to talk really in principle about the appropriations, some of the conditions that are placed forward, and our engagement with National Treasury, and therefore we'll take it from there. Let me thank you, let me thank the Minister, let me thank the team. And at this point, honorable members, we had the only subsequent part of the agenda was to deal with some of the minutes that are outstanding. But it would seem there are a number of members that are not here, so I wouldn't want to challenge the question of quorum in this regard. So what I will do is, if all permissible, move the minutes till next week, and we will begin with them at the meeting rather than finish with them. On the second issue is that we've received communication from the Department of Communications, and I know Honorable Kusela Diko is the chairperson there. Given the fact that the committee has to then vote on the appropriations bill on the 23rd, if I'm not mistaken, of this month, may I make a proposal, and I'd made in any ways, that we move the meeting on the 22nd. I said to them, well, if you want to meet on the 22nd, the committee would have by then considered its own report, and therefore its engagement could only speak to the next term. Could I propose that we move the meeting to a little bit earlier? They have reverted back to us and requested that if it's possible to meet on the 16th, which is next week, Wednesday, before vote 1 on the debate on the presidency. Given that members will be on site, I want to suggest that we accede to that request and then have that meeting on the 16th of July. If that is all agreeable to members, just by way of announcements, our next meeting then will take place with that portfolio committee. Mashile, I don't know if there are any other announcements that I need to be aware of.
Thank you, Chairperson. But on the 15th, we are meeting as well before the 16th, right? To adopt, consider the reports. That would be the only announcement that I have. Is 2 bills, the ESCOM bill as well as the appropriation bill.
Correct. Yes, that will be correct. So we will then send a notice of activity in that regard. We won't be meeting tomorrow, given the fact that members also have various budget vote debates that other members need to be engaged with. And so when we consider our reports, we'll also consider the outstanding bits of the minutes. If we can set an extended time for that particular meeting, that would be helpful. Honorable members, in the light of all of that, let me thank you for your time this morning. Let me thank everybody. I would like to then move that we close the meeting at this point, and then we'll defer the minutes to the next meeting. Thank you very much. I wish you all a wonderful afternoon. Meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
So much.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chairperson.